The King's Shropshire Light Infantry was a light infantry regiment of the British Army, formed in 1881, but with antecedents dating back to 1755. In 1968 the KSLI was merged with the Somerset and Cornwall Light Infantry, the King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry and the Durham Light Infantry to form the Light Infantry. In February 2007 the Light Infantry itself amalgamated with the Devonshire and Dorset Regiment, the Royal Gloucestershire, Berkshire and Wiltshire Regiment and the Royal Green Jackets to become part of the new large regiment, the Rifles. Formation. The King's Light Infantry was formed on July 1, 1881, as the County Regiment of Herefordshire and Shropshire as part of the Childers reforms. It was renamed as the King's in March 1882. The regiment was an amalgamation of the 53rd Regiment of Foot and the 85th Regiment of Foot, which became the regular 1st and 2nd Battalions. The 1881 reforms also redesignated the Militia and Rifle Volunteers units within the regimental district as battalions of the regiment. Accordingly, the Shropshire Militia and Royal Herefordshire Militia became the 3rd and 4th Battalions respectively, and the 1st and 2nd Shropshire Rifle Volunteer Corps became the 1st and 2nd Volunteer Battalions. The 1st Herefordshire Rifle Volunteer Corps was also affiliated as a volunteer battalion, without change of title. The KSLI served with distinction in the Anglo-Egyptian War, the Eastern Sudan 1885–86 and the Second Boer War. In 1908, as part of the Haldane reforms, the two militia battalions were merged to form the 3rd Battalion and the 1st and 2nd VBs were merged to form the 4th Battalion Territorial Force. At the same time, the Herefordshire RVC became independent as the Herefordshire Regiment. First World War. Regular Army. The 1st Battalion landed at St. Nazaire as part of the 16th Brigade in 6th Division in September 1914 for service on the Western Front. The 2nd Battalion landed at Le Havre as part of the 80th Brigade in the 27th Division in December 1914 also for service on the Western Front. Territorial Force. The 1/4th Battalion served in India before landing at Le Havre as part of the 159th Brigade in the 53rd Division in July 1917 for service on the Western Front. It made an important counter-attack against the Germans at Bligny in June 1918 during the Spring Offensive, for which it was awarded the French Croix de Guerre. The 10th Battalion landed at Marseille as part of the 231st Brigade in the 74th Division in May 1918 also for service on the Western Front. New armies. The 5th Battalion landed at Boulogne-sur-Mer as part of the 42nd Brigade in the 14th Division in May 1915 also for service on the Western Front. The 6th Battalion landed at Boulogne-sur-Mer as part of the 60th Brigade in the 20th Division in July 1915 also for service on the Western Front. The 7th Battalion landed at Boulogne-sur-Mer as part of the 76th Brigade in the 25th Division in September 1915 also for service on the Western Front. The 8th Battalion landed in France as part of the 66th Brigade in the 22nd Division in September 1915 but sailed to Salonika in November 1915. Between the wars. During the Irish War of Independence following the war in Europe, on the 7th of September 1919, the KSLI suffered the British Army's first casualties at the hands of the Ariel when a detachment from a unit stationed at Fermoy were ambushed on a church parade by an Ariel unit under command of Liam Lynch. One soldier was killed. 4 wounded and the rest disarmed by the motor-borne raiders. Following the failure of a local coroner's inquest to return a murder verdict on the dead man, 200 soldiers next day in unofficial reprisal attacked businesses belonging to members of the inquest jury. In 1921 the regiment was renamed as the King's Shropshire Light Infantry. After its Irish posting, the 2nd Battalion was moved away in December 1922 to Tidworth. A further journey followed to Minden Barracks in Cologne in 1924 as part of the garrison of the demilitarized Rhineland, and across the river in January 1926 to Wiesbaden, where its band played the regular round of paid civilian engagements as well as appearing at both the 1924 and 1925 Empire exhibitions at Wembley. Bandmaster Bernal was the last to conduct the national anthem before the withdrawal of British troops from the area in November 1927. The battalion returned to Aldershot. Second World War. Regular Army. The 1st Battalion would serve with the 3rd Infantry Brigade, part of 1st Infantry Division for the entire war. Corporal Thomas Priday was killed by friendly fire near Metz on the 9th of December 1939 when the 1st Battalion was based near the Maginot Line as part of the original British expeditionary force that was sent to France at the outbreak of war. The battalion fought in the Battle of Dunkirk, the Tunisia Campaign and the Italian Campaign including the Battle of Anzio. The 2nd Battalion began the war in Jamaica with a company detached to the Bermuda garrison. The battalion eventually would join the 185th Infantry Brigade, which included the 2nd Battalion, Royal Warwickshire Regiment and the 1st Battalion, Royal Norfolk Regiment. The brigade was originally assigned to the 79th Armoured Division but then was transferred to the 3rd British Infantry Division in April 1943, when the division was preparing to invade Sicily until it was replaced by the 1st Canadian Infantry Division. The battalion took part in the D-Day landings of Operation Overlord, where they failed to capture the D-Day objective of Caen due to the presence of 21st Panzer Division. The 2nd Battalion fought in the Normandy Campaign, Operation Market Garden and the rest of the Northwest Europe Campaign with the British Second Army. In March 1945 Sergeant James Stokes, a Scotsman, of the 2nd Battalion was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross. Territorial Army. The 4th Battalion was a first-line Territorial Army unit assigned to the 159th Infantry Brigade, part of the 53rd Infantry Division. However, on the 17th of May 1942, the 4th KSLI, along with the brigade, were transferred to become the motorized infantry element of the 11th Armoured Division. They spent many months training in preparation for Operation Overlord, and the 4th KSLI, like the 2nd Battalion, also served with distinction in the Northwest Europe Campaign. In October 1944 Sergeant George Harold Eardley of the 4th Battalion was awarded the Victoria Cross for his part in knocking out multiple enemy machine guns. The 5th Battalion was a second-line TAR duplicate of the 4th Battalion formed in 1939 on the doubling of the Territorial Army as, by this time, another European conflict seemed inevitable. The battalion was assigned to the 114th Infantry Brigade of the 38th Infantry Division, a second-line duplicate of the 53rd Division which the 4th Battalion was originally assigned. The battalion remained within the United Kingdom on home defence duties. In 1944, the battalion was transferred to the 80th Infantry Division and later the 38th Infantry Division. With these two formations, the battalion served as a training unit for both the KSLI and the North Staffordshire Regiment, eventually sending over 100 officers and 4,000 other ranks to the front line as trained replacements. Hostilities only. A hostilities-only unit, the 6th Battalion, was raised in June 1940, assigned to the 204th Independent Infantry Brigade, later part of Lincolnshire County Division. The 6th Battalion was converted into 181st Field Regiment, Royal Artillery in March 1942. At the time there was a shortage of insignia, so the troops were ordered to cut off the King's and L.I. from the ends of the cloth shoulder titles, leaving Shropshire, which led to the regiment's nickname, the Shropshire Gunners. This regiment served with 15th Infantry Division, wearing Scottish tam-o'-shanter caps and Royal Artillery badges, but still with a regimental badge of a gold light infantry buglehorn embroidered on a green background. The Shropshire Gunners supported 15th throughout the Northwest Europe campaign from Normandy to Germany, being the first field artillery regiment across both the Rhine and the Elbe. The 7th and 8th Battalions were, like the 6th Battalion, raised in 1940. The 7th Battalion was converted to the 99th Anti-Tank Regiment in November 1942 but was disbanded in December 1943. The 8th Battalion was raised specifically for home defense duties until it became a training unit until 1943, when it was disbanded. Post-war, in 1948 the KSLI was reduced to one regular battalion and became part of the Light Infantry Brigade, and in 1968 the 4 regiments of the brigade amalgamated to form the Light Infantry, with the 1st KSLI being redesignated as the 3rd Battalion of the new regiment. Battle honours. As well as inheriting the battle honours of the 53rd and 85th Foot, the KSLI bore the following honours on their colours: Early Wars Egypt 1882, Suakin 1885, Paardenburg, South Africa 1899 to 1902. 10 selected honours for the First World War: Armentières 1914, Ypres 1915, 17, Fresenberg, Somme 1916, 18, Arras 1917, 18, Cambrai 1917, 18, Bligny Épée d'Iran 1917, 18, Jerusalem. 10 selected honours for the Second World War: Dunkirk 1940, Normandy Landing, Antwerp, Venrage, Hochwald, Bremen, Northwest Europe 1940, 44, 45, Tunis, Anzio, Italy 1943-5. Later wars: Korea 1951-2. Colonels. The following served as Colonel of the regiment: General Sir Charles Trollope, KCB. General Sir Henry de Bathe, 4th Baronet, KCB. Lieutenant General Sir Charles Edmund Knox, KCB. Major General Raymond Northland Revel Reed, CB. General Sir Charles John Cecil Grant, KCB, KCVO, DSO. Major General John Malcolm Lawrence Grover, CBMC. Lieutenant General Sir Ernest Edward Down, KBE, CB. Major General William Reginald Cox, CB, DSO. General Sir Geoffrey Randolph Dixon Mason, GCB, CBE, DSO. Notable soldiers. Private Arthur Nick Carter served with the regiment from 1901 to 1951. He actively served in the Second Boer War and World War I. When he retired, he was the oldest serving member of the British Army. He earned 10 Good Conduct Stripes and the Long Service and Good Conduct Medal with 2 clasps for 48 years of good service. The only soldier in British Army history to do so. Recipients of the Victoria Cross: Sergeant George Harold Eardley, 4th Battalion, Second World War. Private Charles Irwin, 53rd Regiment of Foot, Indian Rebellion of 1857. Sergeant James Stokes, 2nd Battalion, Second World War. Private Harold Edward Whitfield, 10th Battalion, Great War Depot and Museum. The KSLI were based at Copthorne Barracks in Shrewsbury. Its regimental museum has been located in Shrewsbury Castle since 1985 and combines the collections of the 53rd, the 85th, the KSLI to 1968, the local militia, rifle volunteers and territorials, as well as those of other county regiments, the Shropshire Yeomanry and the Shropshire Artillery. The museum was attacked by the Ariel in 1992 and extensive damage to the collection and to some of the castle resulted. It reopened in 1995.